Hey, this video is a little bit different this week. Bear with me, and you may really appreciate it if you stick it through to the middle. But what this is an update about my guitar kits. You remember a little while back I created a CNC file guitar kit for people that are CNC router users, to where they can just buy this package of downloadable models and CNC files and vectors and stuff to create guitars. And there's a whole video series about that process of how I made each step on this channel that I think is useful to people, whether they're using a CNC or not, to learn, right? But so then also, because I wanted to make it available to everybody, I do have an MDF version of the kit available at my store, as well as I make some of the parts individually, so you can just like sort of buy the part you don't want to make and then make it yourself. Like you don't want to make a neck, so you buy this and you make your own body, yada yada. You get the idea. But something has come up a couple times now from people that have purchased the CNC files from me, is that their CNC configuration is different. It's like longer instead of wider, and the neck specifically wouldn't fit, so they'd have to turn it to fit on their CNC. Some people have had to turn it 90 degrees, and some people, just recently I had this one come up where they need to put it at a 45-degree angle, and that gets a little bit tricky with double-sided CNC files. So when I was helping that guy out, I screen recorded the process of showing how I did it, and I'm going to show you that real quick and explain what's going on. This might come in handy for CNC users of all kinds, doing whatever they're doing. And then what I also did is I did it on the 90-degree flip as well, saved those files, and I uploaded those to the document folder. So if you were to buy the kit next time, you don't have to do it yourself. You can just grab them the way I've already done it for you. However, you might want to learn how I did it. So watch this. Now, I am specifically working with Vectric software, in this case Aspire, but I'm sure that these rules apply to other digital, software and whatnot. And also with the kit, it comes with these Aspire files. If you don't use Aspire, there's also 3D models and vectors that you can import into your other software versions. So you can see here that I have this thing laid out, we'll call it horizontally. It's like 26 inches by 4 inches or whatever. But if your CNC is only 24 inches long, you might want to turn it up vertically like I'm doing here if you have a more distance that way. So all I did the first thing was to just change the parameters of the workpiece. And now I'm not clicking any arrows or nudging or moving anything. And that's the whole key to this. So now once I have the orientation set up, I'm going to select everything I can. Oh, I'm saving it as a new file so I don't mess up my old file. I'm going to select everything that I can within that bounding box around the file and just simply rotate it 90 degrees. First, what I'm doing here is I'm just moving these notes out of the way, and I have some other art and stuff here that I don't want to move because it will screw up my math. If I grab something outside of that bounding box, it will make me turn it and it won't center it properly. So here you can see I'm selecting everything, models and all, and I just rotated it 90 degrees. Don't worry about all those toolpath lines that are still showing. I'll do the same thing on this side grabbing that bounding box, but now I'm going to go negative 90 degrees because I have to go opposite because it's like a mirror, and that's where it gets a little confusing. But once you go over to your tool paths and you just simply recalculate all of them, it will figure out that you move them and all that stuff. But you'll see this weird thing happens. This little error appeared, and this happened on the other one too. We're going to do the diagonal one later because it's a little more complicated. For some reason, when I moved these models, it gave me this little kind of a ghosty shadow of like about a 0.015 inch wood or something like that. And I know this happens sometimes when you do 3D modeling in Vectric, and instead of going in and fixing the model, I just simply made my blank just 0.015 inches thicker, and then that compensated for that weird little modeling shadow that's there. Once I did that, I went in and I fixed my material setup, and then I recalculated all of my tool paths, and you'll see it all worked great. It's important you recalculate all of the tool paths, because otherwise it will think that your model is still in some other place and cut it out in the wrong spot in a weird way. And that's where people make mistakes a lot when they're like flipping stuff, is they forget to recalculate their toolpath, and then like they go, I don't know why it's not cutting the right spot, it's broken. It's like, well, you didn't tell the computer that you moved it, right? So here you can see I'm running that test, and the way that I have it flipping on the machine, that you can see that 90-degree angles, and now I can see that I didn't mess up and make it backwards. Everything lines up perfectly. So if I use all of the stuff that was outlined in the videos before about how to do this and set it all up that way, it's going to work perfect. Are you still there? Are you still watching? I don't take corporate money to sponsor my videos. I sponsor them myself, and today New Perspectives Music is sponsoring this video by New Perspectives Music. How does that work? Well, it's I've been making a lot of guitars lately and a lot of prototype guitars, and I had a bunch of shows happening at the same time, so I really kind of beefed up my inventory of things that weren't custom orders. And then I just kind of realized now the show season's coming to an end. It's like, oh yeah, I got a lot of stuff laying around here, and so I thought I would actually list them on my website because a lot of them have never been listed, and I'm listing them pretty affordably to begin with, especially like some of the prototypes and the one-offs and things that I'll like literally never make again. I'm very honest in the descriptions about why it's a prototype and what I liked about it and didn't like about it. All that information's up there. But since you're sticking it out and watching this video, you get an extra 20% off for the rest of October. That is CNC 20. We'll save you 20% off on any guitar, just guitars, 20% off. That's crazy. So that means like $1,000 guitar is $200 off. I really want to see some inventory move so that I can start making some of these new ideas that I have and sharing them with you here on my channel. So back to the CNC thing, and I'll see you on the website. Okay, I know I talked fast and that was a lot to absorb, and then we had a little commercial break, so let's refresh and just kind of do it again. And I think you're going to get it this time in case you didn't get it before. So the whole key to this is that I draw this bounding box around everything I want to move, and I only move stuff within that box. And I make the same exact movement on both sides of the file. So if I turn it 45 degrees on one side, I turn it a mirror of that, negative 45 degrees on the other side. And I think this might get a little confusing for some people looking at it, especially now, because what I'm going to do is put it in this 45-degree angle instead of 90, so it's going to make it diagonal. And that means it's going to, when it flips upside down, look like it's facing the other direction, but that's what's necessary for us to cut it by the way the file is designed. And also a reminder that since I created these files, I just uploaded them to the server, so when you buy this kit, all these new files are already made for you, so you don't have to actually do this. But I just thought you might want to learn how. So you'll see this time, the client who contacted me had a 24 by 24 inch cutting board, which I think is a pretty standard size CNC, so this might come in handy. The 26-inch long neck does not fit across, as you can see, so we have to turn it at a 45-degree angle. So that's exactly what I just did. Just like before, I selected everything inside that box and I turned it 45. But now you'll see, notice how Vectric lets you see a sort of shadow of what the other side of the piece looks like. You can see I had to turn it negative 45 degrees to line up with that shadow. If I turned 45 degrees like I did on the other one, it would have gone up the wrong direction. But now I have to fix all those weird little shadow errors that I talked about in the first part. Now I can go and recalculate all of my toolpaths again and make sure I did it right. So now if I tried to do this by hand and click and drag it, there's a chance I could be off. But since we're just using the computer's input where I can type in the specific number I want it to be, we don't have to worry about being off by a skosh. Everything's going to just line up perfectly. And there you have it. It looks weird inside this big square box, and obviously your blank isn't going to be a giant rectangle. So what I did to help with that is there is that bounding box right around the outside. See, I'm clicking on it there of the thing. I just simply created a file to where we could etch that box at just like a 0.01 inch deep into your wasteboard. So you can do that first when you set up your first one, and that way you'll know you have it on a perfect 45-degree angle on your wasteboard by just putting it inside that box that you create there. And then when you flip it, it won't matter, because as I designed into this file, there are these indexing pins that you carve them into the first side and then you carve them into the wasteboard, and they will properly align your piece, and it won't even matter if what's going on around it. As long as those pins are lined up, everything's going to be lined up. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's because you haven't watched the other videos in this series. And so, of course, go back and watch those. There's links everywhere. It's cool, man. CNC is really cool and interesting, but sometimes you hit these little things that maybe challenge your relationship to space and stuff. Kind of like when you're upside down under your car turning a wrench. Sometimes, I know, at least I do, I forget which way the wrench needs to go. And so I just thought I'd sort of show that here, and then also include those files with the kit for people to save them from doing this work in the future. Now I'm actually creating that little box so you can see it gets etched into the wasteboard as a visual reference. Makes sense? Cool. If you're a CNC user, it probably does. If you don't use CNC, this might have just sounded like a bunch of craziness, but if you have any questions, by all means, leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Or post follow-up videos if there's an interest and a necessity for that. Like I said, this video is a little different. Maybe you learned something from it and enjoyed it. Maybe you didn't. But I had to put it out here because I wanted to add it to the lexicon of the information I created around this DIY guitar kit, because I think other people will find it useful. So I'm adding it to that playlist, and it's here for the unforeseeable future. So thanks for watching, and remember what I told you about in the middle. Shh, don't tell the people that didn't watch. All right, be good. Bye.